Welcome back. Here we are on the last page of introducing Grendel and Beowulf. So we just finished here, and now we're picking up on this final page. So mankind's enemy continued his crimes, killing as often as he could, coming alone, bloodthirsty and horrible. Though he lived in Hero, when the night hit him, he never dared to touch King Hrothgar's glorious throne, protected by God, God whose love Grendel could not know. But Hrothgar's heart was bent. The best and most noble of his council debated remedies, sat in secret sessions, talking of the terror, and wondering what the bravest of warriors could do. And sometimes they sacrificed to the old stone gods, made heathen vows, hoping for hell's support, the devil's guidance in driving their affliction off. That was their way, and the heathen's only hope. Hell always in their hearts, knowing neither God nor his passing as he walks through our world, the Lord of heaven and earth. Their ears could not hear his praise nor know his glory. Let them beware those who are thrust into danger, clutched at by trouble, yet can carry no solace in their hearts, cannot hope to be better. Hail to those who will rise to God, drop off their dead bodies, and seek our Father's peace. So in this section, we really hear our monks changing up the tune of Beowulf to fit their goals. Read between the lines. Grendel never touches Hrothgar's throne because it's protected by God. What does this tell us about Grendel? Grendel is the opposite of God. Grendel is distance from God. Grendel is evil. Any of those responses, go ahead and write them in your own words there. How do you know that Hrothgar and his men become desperate? Well, King Hrothgar's men, or King Hrothgar's throne, rather, is of God, protected by God. So, in this version of Beowulf, in the only version of Beowulf that we have, King Hrothgar's men are going to be God-fearing. Typically, if you are God-fearing, you're not going to go to the devil for help. Okay, those two typically tend to be on opposite sides. If you get so desperate that you are asking the devil for help, you are pretty desperate. Additionally, another way that you know that they're desperate is they're talking in secret. Do you talk in secret when you're talking about something, when things are okay? You use secret sessions when there is big trouble. Okay, it also hints the fact that Hrothgar's men know what they're doing might not be what's best, but hey, they are super desperate. Please never get so desperate that you are looking that you end up like Hrothgar's men. That just seems kinda sketch. So you'll go ahead and write your response there. So the living sorrow of Halfdane's son simmered bitter and fresh, and no wisdom or strength could break it. That agony hung on king and people alike, harsh and unending, violent and cruel and evil. In his far-off home, Beowulf, Higlac's follower and the strongest of the Yeats, greater and stronger than anyone anywhere in this world, heard how Grendel filled nights with horror. And he quickly commanded a boat fitted out, proclaiming that he'd go to that famous king, would sail across the sea to Hrothgar, now when help was needed. None of the wise ones regretted his going, much as he was loved by the Yeats. The omens were good, and they urged his adventure on. So Beowulf chose the mightiest men he could find, the bravest and best of the Yeats, 14 in all, and led them down to their boat. He knew the sea would point the prow straight to that distant Danish shore. So remember when we checked out those maps, we looked at that distance that Beowulf was going to have to travel. Why is Beowulf willing to go this far to help out Hrothgar? Spoiler alert, it's not just out of the kindness of Beowulf's heart. The reason that Beowulf's doing this is Beowulf wants those bards to sing about him. He wants to be famous so that his memory carries on and that he kind of lives on through these stories. Our Anglo-Saxons are always looking to become great so that they will be sung about, that they will be remembered. If you need more time to write that down, if that awkward pause wasn't enough time for you, go ahead and pause the video now to finish writing out your response here. And so now I want you to look at a few moments in here. We have a kenning here. Okay, and that kenning is Hrothgar. Beowulf is Higlac's follower, so we can guess that Higlac is Beowulf's king. And Beowulf is the strongest of the Yeats. We already know, we're already building up, hyping up our man Beowulf. So as soon as he hears this, he commands a boat fitted out. He's like, okay, I'm going. We're going to get this taken care of. Now, none of the wise ones regretted his going much. Even though he was loved by the Yeats, he is super well loved by his people, because remember, he embodies the best qualities, the virtues of this community, same as Captain America. However, the omens are good, so that also gives you, if you don't know what omens are, go ahead and pause a moment, look them up, come back. Okay, welcome back, you now know what omens are. Excellent. This also gives you a hint as to kind of where they're coming from in a religious perspective. And we know that Beowulf's probably going to be a victor here. He chooses the bravest and the best of the Yeats, 14 of all, and they go down to the Danish shore. Now, do keep in mind that these are supposed to be the bravest and the best of the Yeats, because this little point is going to matter, going to be a little more important when we get to the second part of the story here. If you have any questions, please go ahead and take the time to email me at brittany.hayes@ccboe.net. I'm going to write that down because y'all have a hard time spelling my name, and that's okay. That's going to be brittany.hayes. And you're going to go ahead and email me any questions you got. Hopefully this was not too painful to watch. Hopefully you feel like you're in a good space so that we can continue moving forward with Beowulf's story. Keep in mind that these moments that we've highlighted, those moments of textual evidence, we're highlighting what in the text proves our point. This is the same type of skill you're about to use in your research, where you are like, okay, I know this is what I want to say, but I'm going to find where in this source supports this idea so that I can say this thing and be able to cite my sources to be able to say this thing responsibly. That concludes our lesson today. Hopefully you are having a great day and continue to have a great day. Once again, any questions, brittany.hayes@ccboe.net, and that's how you spell Brittany and Hayes. Bye-bye.